Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the head coach of Duke basketball, Jon Scheyer. The year is wrapped, but I don't think you've actually had any time to – have you had any time to process anything since the season ended? I feel like the offseason does not exist in college basketball anymore.
It's you try to process, of course, but you're so focused on the next steps to get ready for next year. And I think it's important to take time and reflect what you did well, things we need to do better. But right now, the focus has been on our guys. What do they need from us? And I think we've made some great progress, and we're in an amazing position for it being second week of April. It's a lot different than last year how I felt second week of April. To tell you that much.
You had to double check. It's Monday. I just want to
Yeah.
let you know it is a Monday. It's April 10th. So
I didn't come in on my day off not to talk to you and not break news here. So Kyle Filipowski is going to be on your basketball team next year. He's going to be a first-round pick. Latest Duke Blue Devil to be a first-round pick.
I'll break the news and say that I think Flip is coming to a decision in the next couple of days. And I think we'll have this resolved very shortly. For him, he's had to weigh two incredible options. And like you said, I do think he'll be, a first-round pick if he goes. And obviously there's a lot to do here if he decides to come back. But I do think we're getting to a point in the next couple of days we can get to a decision here.
How's the calculus changed since you were playing at Duke from 2015 with one-and-dones? And now with name, image, and likeness, you guys have a general manager. There's decisions to be made about where you're going to be and those types of things. So how's that calculus change in these conversations?
Well, I think the thing you can't forget is the conversations need to be had with full transparency and honesty. And there's me and you were talking a little bit before this, Joe, where you have to make decisions based on imperfect information. Mm-hmm. And so, with the decisions that some of our guys have made, we have clarity with what our roster probably is going to look like. We don't know fully. And so I really have tried to have conversations with our guys. What's best for you in this moment? And it can't be made based on one other guy returning or leaving. And those are conversations you have the whole year, but especially, in the postseason to figure out, to get clarity as soon as possible with what our team is going to look like.
That's why we were reading tea leaves. Kyle Filipowski's always hyped up. Like when Tyrese Proctor announced he was coming back, I saw it on Twitter. Flip is tweeting through it. I'm like, I don't know. Seems to me like a guy who's coming back. But I guess we'll find out in the next couple of days.
It's weird because you just had a couple of guys play really well. I think you could talk about them at the Nike Summit. And at Duke you're going to have these new guys, freshmen, come in, but also this new reality of adding grad transfers and transfers, and you've added one from the ACC. I don't know if you could talk about him yet or not, if there's a commitment there. But it really does seem like the puzzle pieces are just different than they were even 2 years ago.
Well, for us, we've tried to recruit differently, where still the main point of focus for us will be through high school, where that's different than, I would say, most programs. Even for us, we're talking to transfers. We haven't taken anybody yet, and it would be for a specific fit. The difference for us this year is, we always want to have a core group of guys returning. And you mentioned the 2015 team with those one-and-done guys. They had Quinn Cook as a senior. They had Emil Jefferson, Marshall Plumlee, Matt Jones as all guys who had experience. It'll be a similar thing for us next year, where we have, Tyrese Proctor and Mark Mitchell have already said they're coming back. Jeremy still has a decision to make with what he's going to do. Same thing with Kyle, but you have guys like Christian Reeves, Jaden Shute, Jalen Blakes, who have had experience being a part of our program. And I think that's a big deal. And then when you add in the freshman group we have, which we're really excited about, that's a great balance that we're looking for.
You're going to have to give us some pronunciations on those freshmen, by the way.
I'll help you.
I didn't even try.
I'll help you with that.
After you figure out what the net is about, that's the other thing we need an education on. Because I know last time we talked to you, you said you're going to be spending the offseason looking into the nitty-gritty of that all. Jon Scheyer, head coach, Duke basketball, joining us here on the OG. So you've had some time to process your first year as head coach after the NCAA tournament loss. What was the one thing that you have an idea of what it's going to be, but there was the one unexpected thing that kind of caught you by surprise, being the head coach now?
It's probably just the mind space that that is on you all the time. I mean, for me, it's, whenever I'm in the office, of course, you're thinking about it. When you're not in the office, you're thinking about decisions you need to make, things that need to happen with our players, ways to connect with them. You're thinking about a play, and it's so with Mindspace comes, can you be present? And that's for me as a father. That's for me as a coach. You have a lot on your mind, and that's the thing I felt just at a different level this year. No matter where I was or what I was doing, you're always thinking about it, and I think that's what makes you really good at the same time. But also, can you be present? Can you be in the moment? It was a challenge for me. It definitely was, and it's something I think I'll be a lot better at year two, being able to be present and in the moment.
Well, Jon Scheyer, Duke basketball coach, joining us here on the OG and the Heister Automotive Group hotline. And John, I've said this before, and I don't know if you've heard me say this or has it ever been relayed to you, but to me, the single most impressive thing that you do is you make zero effort to be like Mike, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. When you've learned from somebody and that is your mentor, you're naturally like, I'm going to sit here and try to make jokes like Colton Tudor did 20 years ago, right? So it's really impressive that you've kind of carved your own way in year one. But at the same time, you have this amazing resource in Mike. So I'm curious, and I didn't want to ask you this during the year because I didn't want to make it seem like Mike was pulling the strings behind the curtain. But I am curious, how many times did you genuinely call him or text him and say, hey, I could use a little help on this one?
Yeah, naturally, that's my guy, right? And so if I didn't call him at all, or if I wasn't reaching out, something would be really wrong with me. I would hope you would check on me and say, "Hey, dummy, what are you doing?" He's not only the best to ever do it, but I trust him as much as anybody in this world, right? And so for me, we had a bunch of conversations through the year, just talking about our team. He'd watch our games, talking about how he's doing. Just there's off the court conversations too, but me and him are in constant dial, have constant dialogues. We're in touch. At the same time, like you said, I've developed a great trust for myself and who I am, and understanding that that's the only way to succeed in this job. So it's finding that balance. I think that came pretty natural for me. But my conversations with Coach K, I don't think that's going anywhere.
Joe and I were having the conversation in real time during the game in Raleigh, while you're getting run out of the gym. We were sitting here going, well, we know what Mike would do. The jerseys would be gone the next day of practice. They'd be locked out of the locker room. They're not worthy of Duke.
Yep.
But we were curious how you were going to react to that. And, of course, we get the answer in Greensboro. You're the ACC champions. And I'm not sure anyone could have predicted that day in January, when your team was completely and totally discombobulated, with injuries, mind you, playing a part there. But for you in that moment, were you actually on the sidelines on RBC, or whatever they call it now, PNC, going, all right, now I think I know what Coach K would do tomorrow, but what am I going to do tomorrow? And I'm just, take us through that thought process if you can a little bit.
I could take you through a lot of different games. That game in particular, you have a lot of emotions. I think the way I reacted to that game this year may be different, if that you hope it doesn't happen, but that can happen in the future, because it's based on where your team is at, who it is, what the situation was. And, that wasn't acceptable by any means. I knew that. I've been in a lot of those games myself as a player, as an assistant coach. I'll tell you, I've seen Coach K react differently in a lot of those games. The main thing, though, is that he would never say it's acceptable, end of the day. And for me, it's the same thing. That wasn't acceptable. You got to give them credit for the way they played, but then really painting a picture for our team about how we can be successful. And I think we did that, and it led to great success, really by the end of the season.
Jon Scheyer, head coach Duke basketball, joining us here on the OG. Joe brings up the NC State game at PNC Arena. I look at the loss at Virginia, controversy with the officiating and everything else. We can put that to the side for a second. To me, I felt like that was an inflection point for your team. It was an inflection point in terms of maybe their toughness being questioned, and even how you were going to handle this kind of moment as the head coach. So was that an inflection point? What were the conversations following what happened at Virginia?
Well, I think it started before the Virginia game.
Okay.
Because I'll take you back. We beat Carolina at home. We go play at Miami. and kind of similar to the NC State game, where we get run out of the gym. And so for us, we had some big time meetings that week. Our team had a players only meeting, but then the Virginia game, we put ourselves in a position to win. And we did that despite having 22 turnovers and despite we didn't feel like we played our best either.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, there was a collective, hurt that we had after that game because we competed, we showed up, we fought, we just didn't make the plays necessary. And obviously, there's something unique that happens in the end of the game too, with Filipowski not getting 2 free throws. But that really was a spark for us. It reminded me when I played in 2010, we lost to Georgetown, and we didn't play well. President Obama was there. We got run out of the gym, and it allowed us to really come together. We win 18 of our 19 games to close the year. I felt that same way with that Virginia game this year and what we did.
We'll close on this. Jon Scheyer's like every other coach we've talked to. He truly is a head coach because he remembers the losses.
Yeah, it's always
you always remember the
even as a
losses.
player,
I felt
right?
that.
That's just the way these.
I remember the wins. You guys are asking me about the losses. You asked me about 2 losses.
The wins are easy, but
He's like, hey, we did beat State in Durham. I don't know if you.
Yeah, but the reason why I asked about that. The reason why I asked about that inflection point, because in Greensboro, after he won the ACC championship, and I probably asked Kyle Filipowski about this inarticulately, but I did feel like not that he was targeted, but I think there was a little bit of this guy's not going to push back, or they're not going to respond the way that we know that Duke was capable of responding. And I felt like the ACC tournament was almost revenge tour is probably the wrong way to put it, but it was almost like, hey guys, remember when you did this to us? Well, now we're going to like methodically take you apart. I felt like that was the culmination of the ACC tournament. I could be off base on that, but that's what I felt.
No, I think you can say that he was targeted or we were targeted. I mean, it's when it's your first time going through something, it can be looked at as weakness. Mm-hmm. And so for us and for our team, again, 11 of our 13 players were new. I'm new as a head coach. You don't know what you don't know. And so for us going through it, we wouldn't have played that way in the ACC tournament if we didn't go through some crap where you're, losing or bad moments happen. It's just part of it. And if you handle it the right way, you can be better and get further than you would have otherwise. But I think that's the biggest thing I took away. It's just how can we learn that as much as we can in the preseason without having to go through all that. And that's my goal for, moving forward.
Jon Scheyer, Duke head basketball coach. We appreciate the time. Congratulations on a successful first season with an ACC championship. Obviously, you would have liked to have gone further in the NCAA tournament with a loss to Tennessee. But I guess the offseason doesn't sleep, and we'll catch up with you this summer once we have an idea of what your roster will look like for real.
You see, that's the third loss you brought up, just so we're clear. That's the third loss. I'm just letting you know. Is it not?
I'm the negative one.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. That's on me. That's on me.
You did bring up the ACC championship, though, so we're even.
Right. I was just commending you for the ACC championship, but I get it. I
appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.